Morning, everybody. Welcome to meeting room B on this second day. I'm Tom Miles. I'm the metadata coordinator for Europeana Sounds, and you'll find me by the stands for the Europeana Aggregator Forum stand. I'm here to introduce a panel discussion about reimagining digital heritage networks. And it's my pleasure to introduce you to Nicole Malli, Community Director of Curationist, István Virágvölgyi, was that right? Thank you. Artistic Director of the Kappa Center, and Bettina Fabos, who's co-founder of Open Portal Archives Network. The discussion is, it's just my job just to introduce and then let the three of them discuss this subject. But basically, we're talking about moving away from the static search interface and towards a more dynamic interface. It's something I'm very interested in because this is a difficulty we encounter a lot of the static data, which is actually constantly getting updated. And so how can we make more of it? How can we make things more exciting? So without further ado, I will sit down and let the panel continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Tom, and I will get us rolling today. Before we get started, the panel and I just wanted to start with a moment of gratitude with everyone. First and foremost, Europeana and the Museum of the Polish Jew for hosting us and bringing us all together. I know it was mentioned yesterday, but being from the States, there isn't really an organization that brings cultural heritage professionals that are so dedicated to this work all together. And beyond that, thank you all in this room and online for joining us today. It has been such a privilege to meet you all, and also the city of Warsaw, and just exploring. So with that, as we mentioned, I'm Nicole Malli, the community director at Curationist. And first, we're going to start off with an overview of each of our platforms, and then discussing how, as Federated Archives, we're all working together to really expand the knowledge and how we're working. And then leave some time for Q&A from those in the room and those online. So, with that, I am so excited to tell you all about Curationist today. At its heart, Curationist is a search aggregator that brings over 5 million objects from organizations around the world into one place and making it easily findable and searchable, much like Europeana and other search aggregators. But something that we do is a little bit special, is what our platform is built on. So there are 3 main pillars where we gather works, again, these individual objects and their records, as well as the really specialty thing that we do at Curationist is we have a team of archivists and inclusive metadata specialists that then layer on additional metadata records that make these more findable, more searchable in modern contexts, as well as including voices that have for some time been excluded from these works and how we tag these collections. And with that, we also have an opportunity to create collections from the different works on our sites through the different institutions that can be created for both internal Curationist staff and our researchers that are brought onto the team, as well as every individual user, so that it helps with your research and bringing all of these items together. And usually there's an additional layer to those collections, which are our editorial features, which are produced by our incredible editorial team, which has a rigorous research standard and tone, making sure that every publication is meeting audience members where they're at, whether they know a lot about metadata, the work that's being done in cultural heritage abroad, or maybe they're just interested in Egyptian jewelry and want to learn a little bit more. And with that, we bring on a team of writers who are fellows and critics of color, and something I'm incredibly proud of is we pay a above market rate per word for every item that's produced, and working with folks who are learning how to tailor their research to general audiences to make it a little bit more approachable and accessible. And I'm going to dive a little bit more into the work in metadata that we do. And here's a little example of an object that means so much to the curationist team because it really shows the magic that we do. So here is a object titled The Jar Made by Dave, and as you see, we have some information about the creator, just that his name was Dave, a little bit of the time information, location, and a lot about the materials and the way that it was written. And our internal archivist, Amanda Acosta, looked at this profile and said, you know, we can do a little bit more here. Let me spend some time and add some original research. So it's a little hard to see, but at the top of the jar is a line of inscription. And further reading it, it says, "I made this jar olive cross." So through her research, Amanda not only added more context to the agent, the role, the creator, a little bit more information about the location and fields to make it a little bit more searchable, but adding the context of poetry and ceremonial objects changes just from a utility jar that doesn't have as much meaning to understanding David Drake, who was the actual creator through a little bit more research, was an artist. He was a creative, a poet, something that created religious objects that have a little bit more meaning than is just seen in the original metadata record. And especially knowing that David Drake during his time was most likely enslaved, creating or documenting that his only personhood and quality was being enslaved is really dehumanizing the creator of this object and doing him an injustice. So as part of updating the metadata record, we're making these objects more findable, adding the context that has long been ignored and forgotten, so that way folks who visit the curationist platform learn a little bit more and can see how the metadata record needs to be improved across all open repositories and digital collections. And with that, let me skip ahead since I'm running over. And here's an example of one of our editorial features created by one of our fellows, Abad Dinira, who uses objects from our platform that showcases Islamic bazaars and adds a little bit of more sociocultural context to it, why these mattered, how was a community effort to bring folks together, and a little bit more operations, which adds context to a painting that you maybe would not have known the background and why this was so significant. And with that, I will turn it over to István to talk about FortePAN.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm from FortePAN, and I feel a little bit off here because we are this DIY punk band compared to you guys. So this is a garage thing that we do. Maybe it's interesting for you, hopefully. FortePAN is named after a negative analog film. We are a digital-only photography archive, and this negative material was the ones people were taking the pictures on that we collect. We started in 2010 with 5,000 images, and since we've grown quite a bit, I'll show you some of the images that we digitize. Basically, it started with junk clearance days that we have in Budapest. Probably, I don't know if you have these. It's a great mess when twice a year you can put your junk out in the streets, and that's where our founder, Miklós Tamási, now he can be seen. No, he disappeared. That's him. So he, when he was in the high school in the 80s, he started to collect photographs from the junk, and with his friends, and then basically he arrived at this 5,000 images where he thought that he should give it back to the community where it basically came from. So that's how Fortepan started, and actually he is holding a really important archive here. That's one of our favorites. So we are free to use, it's paramount for us. CC BY license, we use CC BY license. We are as small as possible, always. So no registration, no bureaucracy. You don't have to do anything, just go with the high resolution file. And our solution for all the legal problems, meaning copyright and privacy rights, is that we don't have any income at all. So we are completely free, and that's why there is kind of a goodwill towards us. So we didn't have any problems in the last 15 years, although we don't have permissions basically from anyone. We don't sign any contracts. We don't do any paperwork at all with anyone. So that's why we are a garage band. Okay. Yeah, now you can see the image. So if we move forward, if we can move forward, yeah. So high resolution is really important for us. So we make available always the high resolution. And because photography is a mechanical image making, and accidentally things get on the picture. So we think that detail is paramount when it comes to photography. So we don't think that it would be a solution to have medium size or small size images. You have to have the full resolution to be able to see everything. What a wonderful picture, again. I still like them, although I've seen them quite a number of times. So collaboration, our solution for collaboration is to be as approachable as possible. So we are not a big museum where people would not dare to come with their, I don't know, grandma's images in a shoebox. So we are kind of, we have one small room in a public building, and people think they can approach us, and they can think that we will appreciate their photographs. And because we are free, we have lots of press coverage, and that led us to have donors, private donors, and successful grant applications. So basically, our solution is visibility to gain some money, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. We are 50 years on now, and we have now 206,000 images from more than 800 donors now. We started off mainly as a private archive with families, but institutions and professional photographers also donated their archives to us during these years. I'm quicker than the button. Yeah. So as I mentioned, we are digital only, and what is also important, we go for negatives rather than the prints because we have to have the good quality pictures, and negatives contain so much more information. And we always give the physical copies back because we don't have much money, so we can't keep the physical copies. So we give them back to the families. And now actually it's happening that more and more times they don't ask, even the family doesn't ask the pictures back because they don't know their great-grandparents, so it doesn't mean to them, so they want to leave the pictures with us. So that, in this case, we usually donate it to the Budapest archives. Maybe quickly talk about that we are curated. We don't put up everything. Users cannot upload any photographs. So we do curate, and I think it's paramount that we don't think that everything should be preserved, and it's necessary to be selective. And you have to have a good user experience on the other side. So readers have to see meaningful and good pictures when they're looking through the website. We are small, fast, and agile, and we want to keep it this way. We've been approached a few times with big money, and we usually turned it down because this is fun for everyone. We are volunteer-based. We have one staff, the guy who's seen on the picture. So I have a day job as well, and yeah, that's our budget. So you see, we're quite small, 65K a year in euros. And then just to mention that we started with a very simple website. You couldn't do anything, just go through the images on a longer timeline, and then now it's more customizable. So we do provide best of selections by the editors. You can create your own picture lists, and we have an autoplay function. So basically, you can have, I don't know, like a nice slideshow gathered automatically in the background here, for example. But I didn't choose to do that. So now we since we've grown, we felt the need that you have to have these different functions available. This is how the website looks, and I think what is important to mention is the timeline, which was always kind of the thing that we built the whole archive around. So one thing we have to have is the date when the picture was taken, to put it on the timeline, and then you can start from there. And probably Bettina can take over from here and talk about this a little bit more. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so I hope you've started picking up a couple of themes that we're interested in conveying today, and one of them is curation and how our group feels that high quality and curated images is a gift in some ways to the public, because making the exploration experience enjoyable is, I think, what makes our projects really successful. And also web-forward web development in terms of giving people a sense of interface design that is easy access and obvious. So our project is called FortePan US, and as you can probably tell, it is derivative of the FortePan project in Hungary. So this is what FortePan looked like when I discovered it in 2013. I was doing research in Budapest, and this website, it changed my world, actually. I was in libraries and in national museums. I was having a really hard time accessing photos and having to pay through the nose for so many photos. This is before Europeana became such a good resource. But at the time, finding a high-quality images along a timeline was a gift, a complete gift. And I was so in love with this project overall that I went back to the US and I created a US version. And what is interesting about both of our versions is that we have developed codes separate of each other, but the concept remains the same. The concept is always about a beautiful, does this have a pointer? Oh, yeah. A beautiful timeline that's easier access. We have images organized by place, by time, by theme. István, how many tags do you have now in your system?
6,000, I think.
6,000. We have about 6,000 as well, individual tags. And anybody can find information. Anybody can download the images for free as part of the Creative Commons. Anybody can share or embed even the entire platform into another website. So the whole mission behind the FortePan ethos is sharing and outreach, and we don't own these photos. We're part of a community project. We're by the community and for the community, and this is our way to add in individual photos to a customized list, and I'll get to that in a minute. So what I wanted to talk about today, because our processes are pretty duplicated in the US. Before I go on, though, I do want to say that István is so modest. I mean, FortePan in Hungary is a household name. All my relatives know FortePan. Everybody knows FortePan. It's become an incredible institution. And why? It's because the interface. Because people discovered the interface. It's become like a photo album that makes sense to people. It's like a national photo album. And, what do photo albums have. It's like people organize images according to time. You start when you're a baby, and then you go through up until whatever year. You don't start at 5 years old and then go backwards, right? So time makes sense, and time is the one area that so many archival platforms have seemed forgotten is relevant. But for users, it is the key to finding images that make sense, and also place. Place is just critical for people to make sense and to connect with the photos. What we do, in addition to the Fortepan project in Hungary, is while they have a best of tag, which is a curation of on top of the curation, we also have a featured image tag here. It's like a check mark. This is in the back end. So we want to elevate some photos over other photos because, of every 10 photos that we upload, we will probably feature one of them. And we want these images to rock people's worlds. We want them to be at the top level of the archive because we see this project as aesthetic and as sort of like a way to maximize engagement as possible. So we think of the images that István peppered through his presentation. I mean, you go to Fortepan and you have many, many, many images, especially if you choose best of, that will just rock your world, and we want to rock people's worlds. If you search by tags, then you'll see all of the images related to the tags, even the images that are demoted in a way that don't have that featured link. So I wanted to talk you through 3 innovations that we have for our web platform that we feel like are additional ways that a platform can engage users. And one of them is, again, a copycat of Fortepan in Hungary. We have the ability to create customized lists so that you can gather images on the site. If you have an account, everybody can have an account. It's completely free, and we don't collect data on anyone. That's important. So we have, you can come up with your own name of account. I have butts on the fence, okay? So I collect images of people sitting on fences. I have images of elbows that I think are really cool. I have people holding cats. For some reason, I started collecting images of holding cats. So if the tag is cat, I have people holding cats. So that's my own customized list, okay? The second thing is we have developed something called a photo story. So we got national funding for this through the National Archives in the US, and it took us about a year to create this project. Basically, you take a photo album, and then I'm going to talk while this happens, and you build a photo story. And a photo story is a super easy editing tool. Users draw upon any of we have 24,000 or so photos on our platform, and you can add content blocks with photos and text. You can organize these content blocks in any order and even change the content after the photo story is published and embedded into another website. So it's just meant to be easy. We kind of stole from the Google Arts and Culture project, but ours is free, and we want people to use it, and we want people to embed photo stories into their websites, and the code is also free, of course. So everything that we do is open source, and we hope people can take any part of the project if it's just the photo story or what have you. So we want to build upon and make it better. And finally, I want to talk about our other innovation. It's Photosphere and Photosphere Tour. So we have the capability of matching images against a modern 360-degree image. We have opacity, azimuth, inclination, and distance controls. And we are able to make a very, very precise match. And we are training high school students to take 360 images, and we're showing people how to it's like a do-it-yourself project away from Google Street Maps, okay? Because we don't want everyone to think that the only way to get a 360, street view type experience is through Google. And we all know that Google is monetizing us out of our nonprofit existences. So we really have to steer away from those commercial ventures. Any image that is, whoops, sorry. Oops, I went back way too far. Any image that is marked in yellow is indicating that it's connected to a photosphere, so you can go and experience that image photo mapped or geolocated against the very place the person stood to make that photo happen. And then the tour project, we can interlink. This is the back end visual of how we interlink the photospheres that we put on the map, and then our interface looks something like this. So it's just, simple. Again, it's all about time. We have a timeline on the bottom. We organize groups of images by decade, so you can walk through a townscape, or it doesn't have to be a townscape. You can apply this to glaciers and study, glacier melt or something like that. But the technology is there. It's not difficult. 360 cameras are $300 or less, so this equipment is not expensive, and we're trying to show how we can democratize these kinds of viewing experiences. We can add info dots. This is just an image because we don't have live. I can't demo it for you on the screen, but we can click these dots and we can have info boxes come up. We can add as many info boxes as we want. This area here shows you an overview of that particular decade, and then we can change the opacity up and down. We also have mastered taking images using a drone. This image was taken by a drone, and actually drones almost take the best images. They're the most precise in a lot of ways. So I'm going to end there. And here's one more image of our university campus. And we realized that the best images to geolocate have people in them, especially when you can see their clothes and you can really feel like you're amidst, the people of that period. So, okay. So we're gonna turn this over to another sort of related discussion about how we are building networks with our archival projects. So, Nicole, you are first, and we're a highly coordinated team here. Here you go.
Thank you. Wonderful. So just a little bit about how Curationist is working with other archives. First and foremost, here's an example of what an object and the record looks like on our site. As you can see, anything that's layered that has been added has the Curationist logo right next to it. We never remove data from the historical record, so that way you can see how the metadata record changes over time, how historical context changed not only how we relate to the object, but how we discuss it and relate it to other items within collections. And then we always include the host or our contributing partner and link it back to the original site of the source. And one day, in hopes, would like to share all of our metadata research back with the contributing institutions, and hopefully that they can incorporate it into their online collections as well. And talking about why metadata intervention is so important right now is not only does it, expand how searchable and accessible items are, but as we're looking at how AI models are being built in order to help with curation management and the metadata record, if there's not this intervention, the models will learn these biases and continue it in the works that we're doing. So this is an intervention that we can do right now with hopes to hopefully returning objects and repatriating them to their rightful owners. But as for right now, let's at least talk about what's missing. And we love to gather folks to talk about metadata and the work that we're doing. So we have an annual metadata learning and unlearning summit that not only talks about different types of schemas, what has worked for other folks, what they're finding is interoperable with other open repositories, but just a lot of learning. I think we all know that you learn a little bit from somebody's success story, but you learn way more from their failures and the innovation it took to get to that success. So learning from our others in community has been a really big part of that experience. And then really continuing our writing and research abroad with not only our researchers, but our critics who are looking at these collections and adding another layer of critique. Looking at how these objects can not only depict the misrepresentations in these European collections, but also talk about how modern Africans are relating to these objects and taking their history back. And again, we are working with researchers and critics from all around the world who are at every level in their experience. We've had former diplomats and ambassadors as former fellows who bring this to a whole different level, and we also have current graduate students and those who are not historians or anthropologists, art critics at all, who are now engaging into this material. We find that a point of entree just to the everyday audience to start caring about restorative history, inclusive metadata, just by looking at an article that may pique their interest is really a way to bring in users, as well as start becoming prominent in classrooms where folks are looking to, one, find collections from around the globe in one place, but also find frameworks of how folks are talking about these practices in an approachable way. Let's see, and excitingly enough, we had just launched the Curationist Museum Services this year after some feedback from all of our peers and partners saying, you have a value add here, why aren't you doing something with it? There could be so much more. So we're currently looking for pilot partners. And we heard from our peers, which was so lovely to hear, that we bring a lot of expertise, not only the technical work of bringing the metadata and object records to the forefront, but the hard licensing questions that need to be considered, whether or not it is sacred objects from indigenous communities, and whether or not we have the right to even make those public and available to the larger audience. As well as sharing or creating for collections with our pilot partners their metadata schema that can work with other repositories like Wikicommons and Europeana so that they're all interchangeable and can get as many eyes on it as possible. And I think one of the most important parts of this is with these institutions doing a little bit of knowledge parity to make sure that they're on the same level as the Rijksmuseum, the British Museum, and bringing these institutions to the forefront. And of course, writing our editorial features to add larger context that really share a little bit more about the incredible work that these organizations are doing. And I think with that, let's turn it over to Bettina, or no, I'm sorry, István for FortePAN.
Yeah, we are late, so I'll be quick, hopefully. I'll try to make it short. So we try to spread this method that I was telling you about, spread the attitude. And we are at the end of one of our Creative Europe grants with Fotolook Festival from Lucca, Italy, and Photo Festival of Łódź, which is happening now here in Łódź, Poland. So that's where I'm headed after this. So we do have a few partners, and then a FortePAN method has a separate website. It's very similar to ours, of course, but you can have a Polish and an Italian collection. And actually, we just submitted a new grant to continue with this with other partners as well. So we have an online community of 50 volunteers who try to decode the pictures because some of them are from the trash, so we don't even know where they were taken or who is on the pictures. And some of these volunteers then become our editors. It's really old school. So this is the forum where they post, where they guess where the picture was taken, and they have to prove it. And then two of our editors will either copy the final information or reject it. This is from the 50s in Budapest. Nice view. And then we have a blog that I'm the editor of. This collaboration is with the Kappa Center, which is my day job. So every Friday we post an article about some kind of backstory connected to our photographs. it looks like this. It does have an English version as well, but we mostly post in Hungarian. And this is our motto. The photo belongs to who is looking at it. Thanks.
Oh, sorry. You get your little clap. That's great. Oh, we're almost done. I just wanted to add that the FortOPAN US project is building a federated network for all US states. And we're using code that is based on ActivityPub, and we're going to be integrating IIIF soon. So the goal is to interlink all of our photos together. And this is important. I was just talking to Sendor out there, who is affiliated with the Time Machine. This idea that there's so many images of place that are in archives that are not from that place, you know. So there's a lot of images from in our Iowa archive that have images in Colorado because Iowa families took trips to Colorado, and those images are relevant to people in Colorado as much as they are relevant to the family who took that trip. So we're really talking about this idea of virtual reunification of images of place. And to me, this is one of the most exciting things that I can think about working on right now. It's a big need in the archiving world to unite images that belong maybe someplace else, or at least juxtaposed with other images that are like them in terms of place. So we sought partners, and we have created a really beautiful partnership called the Open Portal Archive Network. So what it is we found similar projects to FortOPAN US all over. And here is where we are right now. There's actually 3 other members that are not listed here in Russia, in Slovakia, in Romania, in Israel, in Estonia, in Austria, in Malta. Raise your hand, Malta, over there, and in Chile. And as we're finding each other, we're growing. We're also imagining a network that is very interestingly flipping out at this moment. But of interest is the Historia Helvetica group, because they are really interested in uniting their photos and working with the National Library. I'm really interested in working with them and realizing their desire to connect their networks using our code. Our base code is called Chronophoto. And I just found out that there's about 1,038 images that are absolutely gorgeous of Switzerland in FortOPAN, Hungary, you know? And it's like, how many Swiss people know about those amazing images in FortOPAN, Hungary? And if we're networked together, if we build a network of family photos, how cool would that be in the long term, you know? So we're starting, we're going to be building it, and I am always looking for collaborators and participants. So I'm going to end there, and thank you so much for listening to us. And we have about 5 or 10 minutes for questions. So do you want to moderate the questions, Tom, or you want me to? Do we have any questions for any of us? Yes, please. Oh, we have to give you the microphone.
Thank you very much. It was very interesting. I wanted to ask regarding both FortOPAN US or FortOPAN in Hungary. I saw you have the tagging system. Is it all manual, or do you use any AI or other tools to tag places, people, themes, and so forth?
Now it's manual in the Hungarian version because we don't want to. The community around us is mostly like pensioner people who kind of get offended when we introduce the idea of doing their job with AI. So we didn't want to go there just yet, but that's where we're headed, I'm pretty sure. But now it's manual. And it's also overseen by one of our editors. So if you tag, you have to be approved by the editor as well.
Yeah, same with us. We have a whole army of students at my university who tag, and they're trained to tag. It's not easy to be a good tagger, actually. So we have an editing process, a moderated tagging system. So we reject tags. But I'm learning from Ava that we're going to get a tagging AI lesson at some point, because there's a wonderful Polish community archive system, and they use AI, and so they're kind of leading the way on that. So thanks for the question. Oh, yes.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I have a question, and please correct me if I'm wrong. You said that the picture that you receive, you decide if you want to upload it on the website. Am I correct? Okay. And let's say out of, let's say, 10 pictures that you see or that you receive or that you find, how many do you upload on your website?
I go first? Okay. 1/3 goes on the website. Yeah, around. Because we, especially from the 70s, when you have the color slides in, huge numbers depicting the same thing like 1,000 times, wife or dad standing in front of the same church. So we do tend to discard a lot of those. So it's not democratic at all. We decide, and we think that I'm sitting on a lot of photography juries, and we I have this impression that the first round is always the same. So even if there are 5 professionals, we have the same result at the end, and then we have the discussion later on in the 5th round. So, and we only do the first round. So we think that one person can do the selection quite okay.
I will say, though, that there's, of our OPAN partners, there's different ways of doing this, and some of our partners have public upload, and some of them don't allow public download. So there are sort of like, we have different categories, and about half of our group is like us, where we want to create an experience, and the other one is like, we want to just have a huge amount of community data for people to filter through. So it's a matter of choice, and I can't say that one system is better than the other. I will say that our code is geared for both, because we have a Connecticut partner and they wanted to have public upload, and so we gave them that. So Connecticut is publicly uploading, and in Iowa and all the other archives, we are highly controlled. So so that's an answer. Hopefully that works.
Yeah, it made me also reflect to another consequent question, which maybe sounds extreme, but have you ever kind of had the feeling that some pictures were fake?
I'm not sure what you mean, because we get from the trash we take out a negative. What do you mean by fake?
No, let's say eventually in the upload section from...
We don't have that.
Okay,
So.
nice. Very nice.
I would say that our place is one of the really reliable places for real images, and we want to keep it that way. So so that is a risk, right, of like not allowing public upload because of fake images that get populating in our archive. No, we don't want that. And I also personally really like the kind of clean archive experience where you not only have the pleasure of exploration, but you don't have to sift through so much messiness, So yeah, I guess that's an answer. It's a great question.
There was a question back here.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. I have a question. You mentioned that you have the different code bases in the US and in Hungary, and is it still the case? And are there any open source solutions? Because just to build a system like this is a huge technical effort. So if there are anything open source, what other systems could you suggest for someone who wants to start a project like this to join your beautiful network? Thank you.
Okay, I'll answer this question. So as I mentioned with the Open Portal Archive Network, if you go to the site, you'll see many versions of the similar ideas of time and place. it's amazing that these projects emerged independently, you know, without knowledge oftentimes of the other project. I mean, we knew about each other. I based our project on the FORTAPAN project, but the one in Chile, it's magical. It's more map based, and then there's a time component. But in finding each other and learning how we work, and also knowing how hard it is to be, in one case in Romania, a one-man guy who does everything himself, everything, coding, the uploading, the Facebook promotion, everything. And you have to understand that it's not really sustainable in the end. And so our partnership is to build that sustainability. And so we have a couple of short-term goals and then long-term goals. Our short-term goals is to find all the best parts of all of our websites so that, you know, our back end is a lot quicker than FORTAPAN's back end. But their website is maybe more beautiful than ours. We love certain parts of the what's happening in Malta. So we're getting together and we are going to build the most kick-ass, beautiful, best practices all the way, sustainable open source portal. Our code is already open source, but we want to elevate this code. We're welcoming partners to help us in this project. And again, this code could be available not just for vernacular photos. It could be available for academic projects. It could be available for legacy photographers. It could be available for people who are interested in documenting graffiti or things like that, or war images. It could be anything, you know. The code is in itself a very high-functioning, time, place, theme oriented system. But our main project down the road, if everybody is on board with the same interface, is to interlink together, is to create a federated network and to have a known kind of place for global vernacular photographs so we can build a history from the ground up. I think that's the final goal. I would say Chronophoto, which is the code that drives our project, available right now, and we're happy to share it with you and happy to work with you on whatever you need. So.
There's a question from the online audience. This is from Mario Suominen. Do you collect family photos for the Family Photos Network, and can anyone send family photos for the project? Meaning, can one send physical photos to you?
You want to take this one?
That's the only thing you can do with us, actually. So we only accept physical photos, and especially negatives, as I mentioned, because of credibility as well. So we do feel that it's important that these are real images that have been taken actually by real people. And the other thing is our obsession with the negative, our like personal obsession with the item itself. Because with the negative, I think it's really interesting that the negative was at the scene. So when you're looking at images, and you can know that this item is coming from that geographical location. And sometimes with war photographs, for example, that's interesting. Oh, yeah, I like this idea. So yeah, please send it over.
And I would say that part of our mission is to teach people that a scan is not a scan unless it's a scan, you know? So high quality scanning is something that is a learned thing. It's not, the scanning software that comes with a scanner by default is pretty crappy. And so we have a whole protocol in place on how to generate high quality JPEG or TIFF files if that's desired, but we are a JPEG only right now archive. So thanks, great question. There was a question back there, yes.
Thank you. So yeah, thank you for the presentation. I also enjoyed it a lot. My question will be similar to the question asked by the gentleman on my right about the technology. You already said it's open sourced, but I'm wondering, do you have any models of like cooperating with cultural institutions? because what you presented, it's fabulous. And this is something that cultural institutions can also benefit from, because this is the tools that they are, trying to build one by one, each institution on their own. I mean, like the tool to present their collection, or the tool with the spacing kind of showcasing the photos, now and then, this kind of stuff. So the problem is that most of them, they struggle financially to cover that. And if you already have like very well solutions how to kind of deal and how to implement this kind of showcasing tools, the question is, do you have any model of cooperation with cultural institutions, so they can kind of like, maybe, I don't want to say like steer your code, but can they benefit from the code and the tools that you've already developed?
First of all, you can steal the code. You can have the code. It is open source. You can use the code. And we would love for anyone to help us build on the code and make it even better than it is. So our OPAN network, we're making the code better as a group, but current versions of our code is available now, and will constantly be updated. So whoever adopts our code can keep on just like updating it. We work a little bit with the Library of Congress in the United States. So we have about 800 images in the FortePan US project that are Library of Congress, and the National Park Service is another partner. So absolutely. I mean, it's ridiculous if you go to the Library of Congress, the beautiful, beautiful collections that they have. But ultimately, they're not organized according to time and place, and that's what makes sense to users. And hello, it's about time that people started figuring out that is why FortePan is so successful in Hungary. That's why our project is successful here, because people can feel like they are immediately getting the images they want. And not only that, they're making relationships between the images that are juxtaposed along the timeline. So there's storytelling already built into, you filter it to, I don't know, cat or something, and you have the story of cats in a certain place, and that is amazing. Just that in and of itself, it's very powerful. And the ability to then share the collection through embedding. So our goal is to have people adopt the code, but also just take the site and embed it in any platform. So we have already little baby FortePans all over, because libraries who have no budget are taking our code, filtering it to their town, and anytime, and it's on their websites, and anytime we have a new image from that town, it automatically populates the embedded version. So it's just a very powerful way of just bringing the photos home to the place where they belong. I don't know, there should be a song I'm singing right now, but but thank you. That's a really good question, and that's what we want more of. We want more people to use these ideas of web accessibility in place. We have time.
Can I have a little, just a little clarification? What about the synchronization with systems like Europeana? Is it like built in out of the box in your open source code, or is it just something, any APIs, any this kind of thing we're all discussing here? Thanks.
This is my dream. This is why I'm here. We would love to have the support from a bigger institution like Europeana. Absolutely. We're talking with Time Machine. We would love to collaborate with them as well and be a Time Machine component in that organization. So it's like you take these ideas that work, and hopefully they get picked up by people who can have the power to disseminate them further. So absolutely, Europeana, please come knocking.
There's one more question. Frank.
Thank you. One question. If you have photographs from institutions like Library of Congress, or I think you have photographs from Switzerland also, they are then also CC BY, because on their website it says something else. So this is the question how this works. And then the other question for the curationists is, are you mainly focusing on US institution? I mean, it's a US thing, or you are doing more worldwide?
Who wants to go first? You want to take the...
Yeah, so we have collaborations, and that's the hardest part for the institutions to let the pictures go. But we only do CC BY, so and we do have a few instances where we couldn't collaborate because of that, because I think public collections still have a hard time letting their contents go, which I, from this seat, from my Fortepan seat, I don't really understand why, but yeah, that's the case. So that's a must. And the other problem we have actually is that we are too popular in Hungary, which I'm sorry to, but really we are really popular with the press because we are free, obviously, but not because we are so bright or something. And public collections kind of shy away from collaborating with us because we steal the show. So, but we really try not to steal the show. But yeah. And that's just to add one more thought is that the public collections would be more accessible than there wouldn't have been a vacuum for our success. So I think it's now it's the other way around. So it's a crazy situation there, but that's what we have to live with now.
Yeah, and then Curationist is a global project, but there are areas we need to improve in. So right now we only have 2 institutions from Europe that are contributing to our collections, but we're putting a big effort through our service pilot program to work with the Global South. Particularly, we're having conversations in Nigeria with a collection that is in the process of being digitized, and where we're really specializing in right now is folks who have community collections, smaller collections that they've just digitized and having the what now conversation. Because we are a remote global team, we don't necessarily have the equipment and the funds to do that digitization effort. But what we're looking to do is bring these institutions on the same platform, the same searchable areas that are like the Reich Museum, the Smithsonian, in order to expand that search. And as part of these efforts, you know, we're not accessible and inclusive if we're only in English right now. So we're working on, we're doing multi-language support on our static pages first, and then working to do our metadata tags as well. Because we cannot be inclusive if everything is in English and focused on Western institutions, but that was just a way to start. The organization, or the site, had finally launched in 2022, and all of everyone who's working on online platforms, there's a lot of trial and error and finding out pages and some works don't work and fixing that along the way. And some other interesting things that we're looking to do is use AI, as many folks have talked about in this room, as a way to ease administrative processes in a way that never removes the human curation and the storytelling touch that makes these works so impactful to our user base. Yeah, any other questions?
Any others? Just before we break for lunch, I think this will have to be the last one.
Question for István, probably. You mentioned several. You're a super popular project in Hungary, etc., and you're donation based, as you mentioned. So, what part of those 65K or whatever your budget is like real donations, not grants from Creative Europe, etc., but what's the real situation? How, for me, just very curious how it's possible to build a project which is free for everyone, and how can it be sustainable? So, what's your case? Thanks.
It's certainly not sustainable. I think the whole project is not sustainable. It's like crazy people doing crazy things together. So far, it worked for 15 years, so it looks sustainable from the outside, but it's really not. So half of it is coming from private donations. So like wealthy people who think this is important, so quite a lot actually from our point of view, but we only have one staffer. So we've been approached with kind of grant ideas that we should apply and probably we would win, but then we didn't go there because because we like it this way. So we are not really after being sustainable. We are. You know, we like to be entertained by doing the whole thing. So I hope that's an answer. It's a strange one though.
Well, my answer to your answer is that I'm working my butt off to make all of our projects sustainable. So you have your Bettina in your pocket, I think. So so that's the goal, is really taking the wonderful FortOPAN and making that concept, which I think the concept, even though it's been duplicated in other countries, the FortOPAN method is really one that kind of rises above the rest of us, and we need to find a way, and I think we're working towards that, to sustaining it. So I have high hopes that we're going to be a sustainable network. Yeah.
Well, thanks very much, and wish you all the best with sustaining what's a fantastic project. And can we all say thank you to Nicole, István, and Bettina for a really interesting talk.